All right, what is going on? Welcome to the Risen Fallen podcast. I am your host, Mark Hendrickson. If you're brand new to this show, then what you can expect is open and authentic conversations about things like mental health, self-development, and how to get your life moving in the right direction. If you're not feeling good about where you are right now, at least having the confidence knowing that you're moving one step closer every single day to the person you'd like to be, the life you'd like to lead, etc., etc. At least just once, at least 1% every single day. Or, whatever. So, what is going on? I hope that you are doing well. I hope that you are starting your week off. If you're listening to this the day that it drops on Monday, you're starting your week off with some excitement, some enthusiasm. So I hope you're doing something that you really thoroughly enjoy to do. Or I hope that you can at least find purpose in something that you're doing right now that you don't want to be doing. If you're working right now, which most likely I am as well, if it's Monday morning and you're listening to this, then just know I'm out there working as well. Sometimes we got to do things we don't like, and it is what it is. But it's not, actually, that's a good kind of segue, because it's not always about, what you're doing or who you're doing it with or whatever but I think that maybe this is kind of and maybe this is, I lost my train of thought there, but yeah, maybe this is a little bit of, maybe a more of a woo-woo topic or something that I wouldn't normally talk about, but, and it kind of sounds vague, even kind of in my head. I was just thinking about it as I was driving home, and it was kind of sparked by a conversation I had with Teddy yesterday. We were just sitting and talking about kind of coworkers and the way that they speak and the way that we think, and it made me even more introspective and thinking about it, kind of reflecting back afterwards, just writing it down a little bit. The way, we speak and the way that we think and how much that colors the way that we feel and how like our mood and our emotions, because I know that like we've all kind of been in a time period of our life where we're more maybe like this, and we know people that are just like this, where they're just everything that they seem to think about, they're all they just give a take where you're like, they have like a negative take on something, and you're like, how do you find negative in that? Like, are you serious? Like, this is such a blessing, or something like, those types of people that are just consistently like almost like ironically like finding something wrong with something and finding a way to complain about it, or finding a way to just like the way that they think, you're like, whoa, it's just so negative. And I've noticed myself, like, even that's kind of one of the best ways that I find, I can gauge it, like kind of like as a barometer for myself where I'm at, emotionally is and mentally, is the quality of my thoughts, like the type of thoughts that I have. If they're like consistently negative, like just like always, every time because it's so weird, because I'm one of those people where if I'm on, I'm on. If I'm off, I'm off. And I don't know if this is too woo-woo or vague or, but I'm trying to get it. I'm trying to get it out. I'm trying to explain it. And so, I just know that myself, like when I'm on, I'm on. When I'm off, I'm off. And if I'm in a good mood, if I'm on, like I'm on the ball, I'm getting all the boxes ticked, and I get maybe an opportunity to do something, then I'm enthusiastic about it. I'm excited for it. If it's something like, your family's going to be like visiting for, some time, or your friends want to go and do this thing, some extracurricular activities or whatever. And, when I'm on, I'm like, hell yeah, like, let's do it. Like, I'm excited for that. Like, I'm enthralled. I'm trying to think of some better words or some new words to use. But, I can tell when I'm in a good mood or when I'm in a good headspace by the way that my actual reaction is, like, internally, to things like that. Like, any what you'd say, like, opportunities to do something, or something in regards to that, or aligned with that, or if it's something more just news, just the way that I'm thinking about something, the way that I'm kind of reacting in my head, like something like traffic, or like just hearing about something that's going on, an event or something like that, my gut instinct, my gut reaction in my head, and the way that it lingers. And that's kind of what I'm trying to be on about today, because if that kind of stuff is not very relatable or obvious or makes sense to you, then you could think of it in regards to speech, because and this is where it gets woo-woo, because the way that we speak, the way that we think dictates like the way that we're going to feel. And so I think that a lot of us, there's the idea of venting and getting it all out, and I've always thought of it in regards, and some people will argue that those are good things to do, to vent and to just get it all out, to talk about all the things that you have negative thoughts about. But I've always kind of taken it from the kind of perspective of, the studies behind rage rooms, and where people think that they can go to a rage room and they can smash a bunch of items up. They can like bang a TV up with a baseball bat or whatever it is. And they think that they're going to leave there feeling like if you're angry and in an aggressive mood, that you can just go and get it all out in a violent way. And the studies that I've heard about in regards to that, and again, I'm a carpenter, I'm not a scientist or a doctor or anything like that. And, but just go with me here and just assume I'm telling the truth about this. Maybe you can look it up and find it. But the study that I heard about was the people that go into these rage rooms and they have this aggressive mindset, or this like kind of anger or like a negative mindset going into it, thinking that these rage rooms or acting in violent ways is going to help vent that out. They actually leave with a stronger association between anger and violence, or aggressive behavior that way. And so for me, I've always kind of come to the same conclusion with the way that we speak, because I know that the way that we speak, I guess I can say it in my own kind of first person, the way that I speak always is kind of like a reflection of not just how I feel, but how I'm going to feel. If I sit down and I just sit and complain about people that I have to deal with at work, customers, coworkers, etc., or anything like that, and I just complain about them, and I just kind of like, oh, this guy pissed me off, this guy did this thing, this guy, whatever it is, I never do that and then feel better after. I might kind of like to hear somebody like parrot back what I say and say, yeah, dude, you're totally right. And, that kind of feels, I guess, superficially good. But I don't think that that's a productive thing to do. I don't think that it's a thing that you want to encourage yourself to do. Like if I had a friend that consistently gossiped all the time, which I've had this conversation with some of my friends, I'd be like, dude, I don't like to gossip. A, it's a sin. But B, if you don't care about that, it just, from what my experience is, it never makes me feel better complaining about somebody. Oftentimes I actually feel guilt and shame about it. I'm like, oh wow, I should have not said that. That was not cool of me to say. And so I think that externally, it's very obvious when you're dealing with things like the way that we speak to other people and the conversations we're willing to tolerate. Like sometimes you have to have that tough conversation where you tell somebody like, dude, I don't want to gossip about that person. I love them. I care about them. Or I just don't want to be a negative person. I don't want to be involved in this at all. And I think externally it's easier to notice and to see when we're talking about conversations we've had. Just kind of think about, even you could even just sit there and write it down. Like, I talked to this person today about this, and then for the next hour I felt happy. Hey, I talked to this person about this, and because of the way the conversation went, or because of the way that we were speaking, I felt negative after. Like you can pay attention to the way that you speak, who you're speaking to, what you're speaking about, and how it makes you feel after. I think it's a useful tool to do. And then, that's the external. But then there's the entire flip side of that, which is the internal. And so considering the internal is more the abstract woo-woo stuff I'm talking about earlier, where you start to think about your internal thoughts and behaviors, your reactions to things when you encounter them in the real world, like something like sitting in traffic. I know for myself, like that's kind of what I was trying to be on about earlier, is when I'm in traffic and I'm in a good place in my head. I'm mentally in a good spot, and I'm just firing on all cylinders. I'm feeling good, and I'm sitting in traffic. It's like an opportunity to just turn the radio up, or to listen to a podcast, listen to an audiobook I've been wanting to listen to, like kind of crank the AC or roll the windows down and enjoy the sun. And it's like an opportunity. Like it's sometimes even almost nostalgic if you get the right song. You could just sit there and listen to something that you love, and it brings back certain memories. Like that you can use, again, maybe even external tools to change your internal, like using something like music, listening to an audiobook that kind of gets you in a better headspace, or a podcast you like, or music. Yeah, like I said, music is something that I use a lot. And so you can use those things to kind of color your thoughts in a way. And that's like I said, this is a lot more abstract and woo-woo than I normally do, but it's just something that I was thinking about it today, literally while driving home. Just I had a phone call with a buddy, and we were just chatting away about life. And even though we're talking about some not even negative things, but just talking about different topics. It's when you get off the phone, you're like, wow, that was like it's like a good experience, a good feeling. You speak to somebody you love, you care about, and you talk in a way that's supportive and like you're not just like sitting there saying negative things. You're actually talking about the future, things that you're looking forward to, things that and you get off the phone and you're like, wow, that was an amazing conversation. Like I feel literally better after having that conversation. And so those types of things, like when you're encountering, if those things can influence your mood and the way you think and the way that you feel, then it also changes how you interact with the events that you go through during the day, in a sense. And the faster you can kind of catch yourself in those kind of negative thought spirals, whether it's like, hey, you encounter something and your brain starts jumping to like worst case scenario every single time. Well, this can go wrong, and this isn't perfect, and the timing could have been better. I wish I had this 3 months ago instead of 6 months ago. And, there's all these things that like where all the stars could have aligned. Yeah, they could have. But that's not how reality works. Like that when we get things, we need to actually think about the opportunities that we're getting given, and be grateful for them instead of trying to instantly find the faults. And so if you find yourself finding just like lost in these spirals of finding these faults in everything that you're thinking about, or you're reacting negatively to some of the things that you're encountering, like I said, traffic, conversations with coworkers, conversations with your loved ones, the way that you react when they have negative emotions, like that's one of the toughest things for me, honestly, to be 100% vulnerable. And it's a good way, again, a good indicator for me of like where I'm at. It's like, are you finding yourself less tolerant of others, and less patient and less compassionate? Or is your brain instantly spiraling to why me, why this, why that? Finding the faults in all of these things. And it does sound abstract when I say it out loud, because and maybe it's not. Maybe it's just kind of self-critical of myself, and that's a good example of it right there. But just kind of like the duality of it. I'm trying to think of the right word to say, but the relationship between these two, because it's kind of a chicken or an egg kind of situation, or a chicken, the which came first. It's like these things kind of color each other. Like it's like if you mix two paint colors together, you're like, how do you tell which one's the first one or the second one after a while? It's like, no, you've made something, there's like a synergy between the two. And so it's just something I was just thinking about on my drive home. The way that we think, the way that we speak, and the way that we, feel are all just intertwined so much. And so it's important, I know for myself, again, I'm kind of speaking to myself here, but I think it's important to be mindful of the way that we or I guess just be mindful of the emotions we feel throughout the day and think about not just, that doesn't sound right, but maybe it is. And so think about the emotions we feel throughout the day, like the things that you react to when you spill your coffee, or get stuck in traffic. You have a tough conversation. You hear about some news. Are you instantly thinking the negative, going down that spiral? And when you do find yourself like that, and which is going to happen because you're human, and that's what human beings do. We have this kind of duality to us. But when you do find yourself doing it, and you decide enough is enough, you say, I don't want to feel this way anymore because it makes me angry, it makes me upset, it makes me anxious, it makes me feel guilt and shame when I speak this way. And, when I go down these thought patterns, then it's hard for me to get out of it and to start to be grateful and feel thankful for the people around me and the things that I have around me, the opportunities that I have around me, instead of trying to find the fault in all of it and think about how the whole world is screwing you over, because in ways it is, but also in ways it's not. It's also like if you stop and think about it, you're also very blessed, and so you should be very grateful. And again, maybe I just need to say that to myself, and that's what that can be. But if you want to maybe say that to yourself as well, it might do you some good, because I feel better after kind of saying all that. And so I think that's a good place to wrap this up. I'm not sure I can just really talk about that too much more without just going over and over again. But I guess just the best way I could summarize it is like it's almost as if it's like an emotional tax when you speak and think negatively. That's kind of a better way to say it. It's kind of like a tax you have to pay. And it's, what do they call it? Not a scalable tax, but maybe that is the word for it. A progressive tax. That's what they call it, I think. It's kind of like a progressive tax in that the more you speak, the more you feel judgment of others or envy of others or consistent criticism of others or just negative reactions to things going on around you, the more you do it, the higher the tax is going to be. And so if you want to change that pattern, I think definitely like the internal kind of reflection of like, do I need to react this way? How is it going to make me feel if I go down this behavioral pattern or this thought pattern? But I think it's easier to just start with the external things. Like think about, the music you listen to. Is it something that actually calms you down, chills you out, puts you in a good headspace, makes you excited for life and enthusiastic? Or is it something that makes you feel anxious or angry or, maybe just talks about things that you're not actually interested in? You might think you're interested in it, but it might be something that's like violent or degrading of people that you care about, or, and again, it does sound woo-woo. It does sound not like something I would typically say, but it is something I have to be mindful of, because there is like I said, certain music that, glorifies partying, glorifies lifestyles that I don't really like to have in my life anymore. And, I find myself, I'm going to listen to this. I'm going to listen, I miss listening to this song, or it just has such a good beat. And then I start listening to songs like it. And then I start listening to songs kind of like it until I'm just going off in this, like, when it changes the things I want to do. And it almost, I'm just maybe kind of like a social chameleon in that way. I'm very susceptible to things around me that way. But there's other times where I find myself, I can put on some like certain songs and it just puts me in a better mood. It makes me want to be more social and more like smiley when I'm driving through traffic with my windows down, or it makes me more motivated, or it makes me more grateful. There's podcasts, audiobooks. And then of course, like I said, the way that we speak, the conversations that we have, if we gossip ourselves or if we tolerate gossip around us. And if it doesn't have to be like one of those things where you make a big stink out of it in like a group setting where you're like, hey man, you shouldn't say that, or you shouldn't do this. But you could just like not join in, or you could just kind of maybe, maybe you could do that, have that conversation after. You could say to the person like, yo, if you like, I'm not a big gossiper, and like, I'm just going to separate, or maybe you could just separate yourself. Or like I said, you could just deal with it and, just not join in and not let that kind of, color the way that you speak and tax the way that you feel. And so I think that's pretty much it. All right, so I don't normally do this, but it's the next day after recording this, and I just want to jump in with one more little idea I just thought about as I was driving home today. And surprise, surprise, I do my best thinking in my eyes when I'm driving. That's always when I think of good ideas that I think are worth talking about or worth pondering on or thinking about. But nonetheless, that's rather here nor there. I thought about this more, and I was thinking about, one of the things that I forgot to mention I thought was important is also the way that and this could just be an argument to help boost my own ego here, but and pump my own tires here, but also the way it's important to note and to think about the way that our mindsets and our moods and our emotions are going to color the way that we interpret podcasts, seminars, classes, or anything like that. Because when we are in a positive mind state, a gratitude mind state, or a grateful mind state, or a humble learning mind state, when you're in a place and you're like, I am going to get the most out of this no matter what, you will always find, even if there is a level of incompetence from the person that you're talking to or hearing or whatever it is, you will, if you're in the right mindset, consistently look for things that you can pick out of it. Even if 90% of it, like there's a lot of books that I've read. This is another good example where I've read the entire book, and it could be like a 300-page book or whatever. And really, honestly, 300 or 298 of those pages were just like kind of quote unquote a waste of time. But I was thankful that I read the book, because on 2 of those pages, for example, there was, or maybe even just 1 of those pages, there was one quote that changed the way that I think about something or my perspective on a topic or an issue or whatever it is. And so, like, if you can look at the, you go, well, reading that book was majority a waste of time. I could have just flipped to that page and read that thing, but it's like, yeah, but you didn't. And so the gratitude mindset, or the healthy mindset in my eyes, would look at that instance, that example where you're reading a book or hearing a seminar or listening to a podcast, and you go, dude, I got this beauty of a gem. I got this one idea or this one thought or this one way of expressing something or learning something or whatever it is. Something that you've never been able to put to words. You knew it was true, but you never been able to put words to it, and you heard one quote in one book that just kind of helped you out with it. And you had to sift through 398 pages or whatever to get to it, but it was worth it, And the same goes for like listening to podcasts, listening to seminars, going to a conference, going to a meeting or whatever it is. And not everything is going to be useful or life-changing. And if you're in the wrong mindset, you're going to go and say, well, 98% of that was a waste of time. This could have been better. This would have been done differently. This person, I don't like their view on this. So you just disregard everything they say, when really, if you're coming at, anything in the world with the mindset, a healthy mindset and a positive mood and gratitude in your heart, and appreciation and the feeling that you need to give something back, at least what you could give or what you could show is an appreciation for the one thing that went right, the one thing you learned, the positive this, the positive that. Always looking for, and this is something that I find in myself, again, I feel more happy when I feel like I've wasted less time when I can look into something and say like, hey, at least I got this out of it. Like, that was a really cool experience. You could go to a jiu-jitsu class and, you go in and you learn a technique, and there's a lot of times where you think like, oh, I'm not going to use this. I'm not going to, but you might one day, is the first point. And the second thing is like, well, maybe you've just learned how to defend against it. Maybe you've just learned how to. And so there's always like two people could take the same class, and one guy would leave being like, oh, I just learned a technique I'm never going to use. And then the other guy who may be in the same boat, he could be like, oh, I just learned a technique that I don't really plan on using, but at least I know how to counter it. At least I know how to, at least I understand the position and therefore the game better, you know? And I use that example of jujitsu because, again, those are both feelings that I've had. I've left classes where I'm like, fuck, that was kind of like, I'm not going to use that in my game. I'm not going to do that to somebody. It's not, it doesn't work for my body type or my athleticism or whatever it is. But then there's been the exact same scenario where I leave thinking, you know, hey, I'm probably not going to use that. It's not really like a comfortable position for me. But if I get stuck in it, at least now I understand the position better and I know how I can nullify or what I can do to make my experience better and understand, just like I said, the game a little bit better. And if you don't do jujitsu, then maybe you don't really relate to that or vibe with that. But at the end of the day, the difference isn't the student. The difference isn't the class or the lesson or the teacher. The difference truly is the student and the mindset going into whatever you're going into. And so whether it be a conference, a video call, a podcast, an interview, a book you're reading, a lesson from an instructor or a teacher, something you're trying to learn, you need to be mindful of the mindset that you're going in with. If you're going in with a pessimistic, negative view of like, oh, this person can't teach me anything, or there's nothing for me to learn here, this area I don't care about, it's insignificant, then you're probably going to get that back. You're probably going to leave just having that kind of self-confirmation bias of like, yep, I told you so, I knew it. But if you go in with a positive mindset into an experience like reading a book or going to a seminar or learning a class or doing a whatever it is, and you come in with the right mindset, 98% of your time could be spent not learning something. But if you get that 1% of knowledge, another tool for your toolbox, another way of looking at the world, then in my eyes, that could be worth it, depending on how that impacts the way you think, the way that you behave, and the way that you treat situations in the future. I think that's the way that you can kind of use your mindset going into something to get the most out of it. And I think that if you're not looking to get the most out of the things that you're doing, then why are you doing them in the first place? So, yeah, that's a little thing I just wanted to add, and now I'm going to just cut back to the original recording. And so I think that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're listening to this on a podcast platform or anything like that, leave a message, leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe. Do everything you can possibly do to start to help your boy out in the algorithm. And yeah, leave a little 5-star review, leave a little message there, and catch you guys next Monday. Much love. Peace out. Love you all. Bye.